going to get started. So this is an amazing group. Already we have over 100 people at this time of year. People tend to be a little bit tired and or what do you mean thinking about next year? I want to finish with this year. So this is exciting. And I am really grateful to welcome you all to our 10th grade transition meeting. Whoop, whoop, you all have sophomores now. That's amazing. And we have some information that we think will be very useful for you that we're going to go through. So first, this is, I don't know where you're going with this.
Sorry.
Janet? Yeah, okay, that one slide that I added before, okay, it's not there.
Let me, 1 second, let me reshare. I apologize.
Yeah, reshare, because people are still coming in anyway. So, this reminds me back in the COVID days and the virtual days where these kind of technical difficulties happened all the time. We don't have any Zoom bombers though. Remember that? That was crazy. Yep, there you go. That's the one. All right. All right. So we want to tell everybody, thank you for joining us. This is an amazing crowd, 113 people. You beat last year's group at about 60 something. And so we really want to tell you that you're already ahead of the game, that parents who take the time to start partnering with us this early on in preparation for next year really is going to be a good opportunity for success for your kids and for you. So we want to thank you for joining us. We just wanted to explain to you a little bit about the best way for us to operate tonight. We invite you to ask your questions via the Q&A button. You see that in the middle. It is called Q&A, and you can write a question, and we will do our best to keep up with your questions. There is no chat. When we're trying to man both the chat and the Q&A, it's really hard. If we don't know an answer to something, we will take that down. We'll remember that, and we will be able to send out information later. And I know that some of you have a couple of kids at DePaul, and so you're picking one session over another. And so we are recording this session. All of the sessions will be shared. And so if you have to attend one session over another, then that's okay. You'll still get the information and you will get to see it in real time because it's not just a PowerPoint, but the actual recording. All right. Okay. So I'd like to introduce us to our team. Hi, I'm Anna Pavicevic. I'm Director of Student Services. I see many names and faces. I can't see all the faces, but names that I recognize. And for the most part, I manage everything that has to do with counselors, with learning specialists, with any kind of academic interventions. And basically, I'm a gal Friday. I do whatever it is that they ask me to do. I have a long history in education, more than 40 years. I am a retired administrator from CPS. So pretty much there's not a whole bunch that I don't know how to do or haven't experienced. And so sometimes some parents reach out to me because they know me or I'm the most accessible, and I'm happy to have you do that at any time. I'd like to introduce Andrea Janik, who is our school counselor. She may be the counselor of some of your students. Claire Tiemann, another school counselor, also someone you may be familiar with, who you may know from already having had communications. Jackson Ford, he's relatively new to our team, an amazing, amazing addition. He's our campus minister and service coordinator. Sarah Cornelia, theology teacher, and someone who has, for a bit of time last year when I was brand new to this school, she led these sessions. So we're happy to have her and her expertise. And then Katie Mellon, who's not only a learning specialist, but she is the head of the department for learning specialists. She and I work very closely together, and we really are committed to doing everything we can, everyone in this group, to do everything we can to support your students. But first, in our tradition of faith, I'd like to invite Jackson to lead us through prayer to begin this session.
Hi, thank you, Anna. And yep, and we typically start our prayers in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Creator God, source of love, font of peace, we gather in your name as parents, guardians, and caregivers of teens. We give ourselves to you in this moment. When we are overwhelmed, give us confidence in the small steps. When we are stressed, help us to recognize joyful moments. When we are filled with worry, gift us with reassurance of your presence. And when the day keeps us running, remind us to breathe in the life-giving air around us. Infuse us with the breath of the Holy Spirit, knowing that it is in us, but not of us. Give us patience and strength for the days and quick years of childhood, and hold our hearts in your loving hands. We ask this in your name, O God. Amen. Saint Vincent de Paul, pray for us. Saint Louis de Marillac, pray for us. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much. All right, here we're just going to kick it off. There you go.
So hi, everyone. As Anna said, my name is Claire Tiemann. I am one of the school counselors at DePaul Prep. So to start off, talking about the strengths of our sophomore students. 10th graders are one of my favorite grades. I feel like they have grown so much from their freshman year. It's so fun to look back at the kids that they first were at the beginning of their freshman year, and now they're coming in feeling much more self-assured, much more comfortable within the school building, and really coming into themselves. And so some of the things that we love about our sophomores are the personalities. Like I was saying, they come in with they're ready to engage. They feel like the school is their own. They're eager to learn. They're excited to be back in the building, back with their friends. They have great energy levels. Like I said, they are growing in self-confidence. They're much more self-assured. They're more independent. We see a lot of those critical thinking skills really starting to emerge. They're able to set more realistic goals because they've been in the school building. They've kind of gotten used to the pace and rigor from their freshman year, and they're connected to folks already. Something that we see a lot in students' freshman year is that they are still kind of finding their way with friend groups. And sophomore year, they're coming in with a set group of friends already. So while all of those really great things are happening, there's still some challenges that 10th graders face. So Ms. Keneally said it best earlier today. She said, I remind my sophomores at the beginning of the year that they are just barely sophomores. They were freshmen not that long ago. And so there's still some maturity and behavior issues that we sometimes see with sophomores. Sometimes they can have a little bit too much energy in the classroom or a little bit too comfortable in their settings. The confidence that we see with upperclassmen when it comes to self-expression and popularity or wanting to be popular. Sometimes we still see struggles with that with sophomores because we are really promoting a greater sense of independence. We sometimes see a drop in academics and grades as kids navigate being more autonomous with that. We still really have to work on executive functioning skills with sophomores, their organization, their self-advocacy skills, and they can, as I think all students can be, can get easily distracted with their iPads or their phones. So one of the biggest goals, as I was saying before, is really helping these 10th graders transition into being more independent learners. 9th grade, we put a lot of things in place to help support them. And while those supports are, a lot of those supports are still in place for our sophomores, we really want to help kids hone in on their ability to be as self-sufficient as possible, just because for their junior and senior year, those are skills that they're really going to have to tap into. So we will talk about a couple different methods that you can start trying to employ with your students now in preparation for sophomore year. But the biggest things that we want to see your students working on next year is the ability to sustain focus, especially for longer periods of time. There's going to be bigger projects, bigger tests, longer reading assignments. Being able to keep track of materials both at home and at school. The overall rigor of your child's course load is going to be increasing, which means that they need to have a good handle on what they need for class each day. Being able to locate assignments both on Schoology and Notability. This is something that I think all of us see across the board, not just as a challenge for sophomores, but really staying up to date on what they need to be turning in on Schoology and making sure that Notability is synced. There have been a couple students just this week where it's something as simple as backing up their iCloud account, but Notability notes have disappeared when they haven't backed things up right away. So making sure that they're staying on top of that. Being able to prioritize, this is another thing. Miss Mellon gave us a great tool that I will send out to you to go over different ways to prioritize. So, Andrea, if you want to click on the prioritizing link here, we can send this out. But this is a great way for students to be able to prioritize what it is they need to be working on. So if an item falls both into the is it important and is it urgent category, then we would put that at the top of the to-do list. If something is important, but it's not urgent, that could go more towards the middle or the end of the priority list. If it's not important, if it's not urgent, bottom of the list. So this is something that you could have your students practice with now, again, in preparation for next year. And then the Pomodoro method, I know that some families have utilized this already and have found it to be really helpful, but this involves breaking chunks of work or breaking work up into chunks of 25 minutes. This is something that I myself do too. So it helps you be really focused for about a half hour, then you take a brain break just to help kids work through those longer tasks.
So that's me. Hello, everyone. As Anna mentioned, I've been working with sophomores for my entire career as an educator, about 10 years now. So I'm very aware of the increased academic rigor and need for student engagement in the classroom for our sophomores. So we actually polled our teachers to ask what are the things that they expect sophomores to know or to be able to do on their own. So if we could, great. And the biggest one is utilizing Schoology effectively. So we know it's challenging that different teachers seem to have different systems for how they set up their Schoology. But what we find is students aren't even like taking the time to sit down and explore the Schoology site to get to know it for each teacher. So a great use of time would be to maybe during their fresh period, be checking each of their teachers' Schoology pages as well as their emails. That's the way that pretty much everyone in our building is going to be communicating with students because it's a guaranteed line directly to them. Along with this, you guys also have access to Schoology, which I think is helpful for maybe a double check if need be. Sorry, thanks, Andrea. So then when we think about the actual expectations academically, let's look at reading and writing. So we expect our students to be able to read about 15 to 20 pages for homework in a textbook or novel. As a reminder, our classes are block, so they would only meet with us every other day. So the idea being it's actually only about 7 to 10 pages a night if we're going to break it up in that way. Students should be able to take useful notes, come prepared to class and be able to apply their learning, summarize the ideas that they've read about, analyze or interpret figurative or literary meanings behind things, as well as themes and concepts in a text. So big reading comprehension jumps here from their freshman year. And then in terms of writing expectations, somewhat similar. We're looking for them to make independent choices as writers and develop their own clear voice. We expect them to be revising, so reading through what they've written so that they know it's understandable and comprehensive, as well as being able to take the feedback that their teachers give them and apply it to those revisions. They're writing more long form essays. My sophomores, all of our sophomores actually just finished up a 5-paragraph essay for their final in sacred scripture. And most of their essays end up being almost 4 pages long. They don't even realize it when we're doing it because we do it paragraph by paragraph. But in the end, you double space that puppy and it's like 4 pages. And it's so cool to see their faces when they realize what they've just accomplished. We're expecting them to use proper grammar, spelling, punctuation, and to be able to reflect on their own writing process.
Great. And so just again, I'm Mr. Ford. Jackson, you guys, parents are more than welcome to call me Jackson. My main mission here is, I'm actually really glad I'm talking to you guys this evening, is to make sure that your students have a smooth experience while trying to do service at DePaul Prep. It's truly like my goal to help them with anything that they need, to help get them set up with organizations that they want to work with, to help them with mobile serve, etc. So I'm just going to run through a few things. Some of these are things you've already heard before, and some of these are maybe slight adjustments. You guys are probably totally aware that you guys and your students signed um, an agreement for 10 service hours freshman year. Many of your students have not quite fulfilled that already, and that's okay. There's something coming up on the next slide that we'll talk about here in a second. But yep, we have the goal of, by the time your students have completed their first year, they're going to have also completed 10 hours. And then there is not a sophomore requirement. So there is not an additional 10 hours that they have to do as sophomores. But as they get involved in teams, in clubs, in honor societies, etc., some of these things, like the honor societies specifically require 10 hours, but the teams, we try getting our athletic teams to do service events together just as a culture building and team building activity. So we'll move into, oh, and then the last note on that last slide was just that we love getting students involved in our services on campus. And so if they want to be a lector or a Eucharistic minister, etc., we're always getting them plugged into those things. All right, so this school year there's been a little bit of a dynamism to the situation, because I started at the Paul Prep in November. And I replaced Mr. Burris, and Mr. Burris and I have different philosophies about how things ought to be done with regards to service. So there were some changes that I made to hopefully alleviate some of the pressure students were feeling. And one of the most significant ones is what our expectation for the final date of having completed the freshman 10 hours. As I was kind of getting familiar with the situation on campus, it became apparent to me that your students were juggling a lot this year. And so that they're interested in doing service and they want to do service, but that part of getting school life taken care of, doing homework, and staying on top of service and logging service hours, that was all a lot. So I wanted to extend this date through the summer to get our 10 hours in. And it's crucial that you guys know that take this evening and help your students also understand that if they have not completed their 10 hours yet this year, that it's okay. We've got until August 19th to get these 10 hours in. I'm also going to make an announcement at lunch tomorrow so that they all know. I've sent them each emails that have updated them on the amount of hours they currently have, and I'm happy to send that information to you guys as well. If you guys have any questions about opportunities for your students, please just feel free to reach out. We have a running list of organizations that we partner with all the time, that are ready and able to take the Paul Prep students, and I'm happy to try to get students plugged into environments they want to be in. And yes, but August 19th is the important date to take away from this. That's when your students have to complete their 10 hours. And yep, if there's any questions about how to this is also a plug I want to make. Please, 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 have your students show you their mobile serve. So we still have some students who aren't logged into mobile serve, and again, I'm here if they need help with it. Please have them find me at school. I'm happy to help them, and I just want to make their lives easier with this. So if you guys have any questions, my email is jford@depaulprep.org. And that's, I think, what I've got. Oh, the next slide is our sophomore retreats. Oh, this is perfect. Okay, great. So, yep, we talked about the service commitment. There's a great tab on Schoology, the resources tab, that you'll be able to click into that has a lot of this. There's also um and if you email me at all, I have all of the necessary documents kind of in my email signature. I'm happy to send that to anybody who's looking for something in particular. And I post things regularly, opportunities that we're doing on campus, or if there are events going on at the park. And I do that mostly through Schoology. I tell people on the morning announcements. And Yep, and then the service cord is something that like they still have a little time to think about, but it's basically our way of rewarding students who have worked hard at giving back to the community. We had 46 seniors just walk with the service cord, and that was exciting. And but the requirement for this is that they are gonna complete 75 total hours of service between nonprofits and on-campus stuff. 25 hours can be on campus, 50 hours is gonna be with nonprofits. And they have goal bars set up on mobile serve that tell them exactly where they are in relationship to earning this. So it's pretty straightforward. If the bars aren't complete, we might just have to adjust something, if they logged it as on campus when it was actually nonprofit, etc. I help people with that all the time. So if there's ever any questions about that, please just have them talk to me. I would love to help them. And then lastly, our sophomore retreats. We have a great 1-day retreat that we do that starts on campus, where there's a lot of reflection going on. There's icebreakers, reflection, um, snacks, etc. And then we're going to St. Vincent de Paul Parish in Lincoln Park, next to the university, where Father Chris Robinson has a scavenger hunt set up, and basically has kids kind of just ask him whatever kinds of questions they have, and that's related to our Vincentian heritage, that's related to the church as a whole, that's related to how some of our students of other faith backgrounds relate to these things. And really, he does a great job. He's a brilliant man who answers questions from all different directions all the time. And your students are getting brighter, so they come up with great questions. And yeah, the theme is fearfully and wonderfully made, and that's really we're trying to get that identity building, kind of integrating those things together in this retreat. So yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys. Thank you.
All righty, back to me. So parents, staff, one of the biggest challenges we have with that transition to sophomore year is that the kids are getting bigger and they seem more mature. And we talked about an increased level of confidence. But what we really need to remember is that these are 15 and 16-year-olds. These kids aren't cooked. They're not finished growing and developing. And so it's very important for us as a collective community to make sure that we're focusing together on how to support a couple of key life skills, things that are going to carry them not only through a successful tenure at DePaul College Prep, but through life. And so we just wanted to talk a little bit about some of those things with you. And really the key to this is what we're doing to help the students become mature, independent advocates for themselves. So the first thing we talk about emotional regulation. And emotional regulation is that ability when things don't go your way, or when you're feeling frustrated, or when you're feeling picked on, or that somehow you're under an incredible amount of stress or anxiety, that you're able to exhibit an appropriate emotional response at the appropriate time. And so we really work hard with kids as they're transitioning. When they're a freshman, we see all kinds of behaviors. We still see kids who are, acting like 8th graders and like elementary school students. But as we've worked with them for that year, it's now time for our sophomores, our 10th graders, to think about some strategies and skills that they can use to calm themselves and to be able to have a toolbox of responses that allow them to respond in an appropriate way. And so that's really important. And we can talk about that. And as time goes on, sometimes we see students who have a little bit more trouble with that. And some of those students come by it honestly. They have a diagnosis of ADHD or an anxiety disorder or major depressive disorder. And so we expect in those instances for students to respond in a way that their brain tells them that they need to respond. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to work with them to develop a skill set that allows them at a time when things aren't going exactly the way that they want them to or perfectly, to know how to respond appropriately. Predicting and understanding consequences. So the prediction part comes with a lot of information. Kids only know what we tell them. And so, it's hard, when you do something wrong, they know right and wrong. They understand, they've been here a year already. But still, as the stakes get higher for them, it's important for them to know that we are going to be a little bit quicker in the way we respond with consequences. And so it's important for them to be able to make predictions about, based on the information they have, about what could possibly be coming down the road. Those are things maybe that might deal with anything from a misbehavior, tardiness, not coming to school, unexcused absences, to an academic integrity issue, to not responding in a way that is what we would say respectful as part of our core values, to inappropriate cell phone use. And so the kids know by now, our students know the consequences will come. But as they've had an opportunity to practice some of these behaviors and things that we expect of them, now is the time that they really need to understand that consequences are coming. And then go back to that emotional regulation so that if and when those consequences come, that they respond in an appropriate way. Time management and punctuality. That's not only about getting up on time and getting to school on time, but really for our students, the biggest challenge has to do with managing a distraction of a cell phone or an iPad or an athletic event or athletic practices. And so how do we get them to know that I have all of these things that are both urgent and important, or important and maybe not as urgent, and how to plan for getting those things done in a timely fashion so that they don't get to a point where they're stressed or feeling overwhelmed or feeling that, somebody's having expectations of them. Again, going back to emotional regulation, and predicting and understanding the consequences of that. Punctuality, turning things in on time. At DePaul, we have a pretty clear set of expectations for late work, which means you can't do it unless you have some accommodation for having an allowance for extra time, but having things done in a way that meets the expectations of the classroom teacher that are usually communicated well in advance. This isn't only about coming to class on time. That's not usually a problem. Once our kids are in the building, they move through the building pretty expeditiously. They know where they're going. It's very difficult for kids to be wandering hallways at this school or coming to school on time. That's not a huge problem that we have, but this is really about punctuality. I mean, it's about all of those things, but about punctuality in terms of getting things done when they're supposed to be done. Self-advocacy. Parents, this is really the time we expect you to take a step back. And we work with the students, and you can work with them too, to learn how to be the ones to step forward and to communicate their needs. I need help. I need extra tutoring, not only with their teachers, but with you as well. We work with them as well, how to go home and to say, I need space, I need quiet, I need time. I need you to take my phone away, to remove the distractions for me. This is the time that we ask parents to step back and not to be the ones to communicate with us anymore, unless, of course, there's an emergency, or that there's something that you think we need to know. But when it comes to those day-to-day routine things that kids need to do in order to be successful students, we'd like to hear from them. Hey, I messed up. Could I have a little bit of time? Hey, I didn't do as well on that quiz as I wanted to, or that test. Can I set up time for remediation and a retake? And then again, reflection and self-awareness. We're asking for students to assume accountability, to think about the things that they've done well, and to be aware, and we celebrate those things, but for them to celebrate those things about themselves, that they have that intrinsic motivation for knowing that what they're doing has value to them, not only for getting a grade, but because they tried hard and they had a successful result. And for some kids, maybe that trying hard and getting that successful result is about getting a B, or really working through a challenging task or assignment that has always been a hurdle for them in grammar school or maybe as freshmen, that now as they're maturing and they're able to advocate for self more, they have better time management, they're able to predict what they have coming and understand how to avoid consequences, that they're able to really reflect on what needs to be done and have the awareness about their strengths, about their areas of growth, and to be the ones to communicate and to ask for help to develop those skills. And so this is a really important part of their rite of passage, that it's not mom and dad, aunt or uncle, grandma, grandpa, older brother, older sister who are coming to them and reflecting for them, telling them this is what you needed to do, this is how you should be feeling and thinking, but that we're guiding them through a process where they come to that awareness on their own, and that they're able to manage whatever consequences or whatever needs they have around an issue on their own. So again, this is a time that you might write to us, or you might write to me, and I might say, hang on a minute. Everybody, let us just work with them on this. Don't, relax. We haven't lost a kid yet. Our kids do very well. We're highly skilled. Give us an opportunity to work with the student, him or herself. And that's really something that we start escalating exponentially at this time and grade level. So just important for you to know. That doesn't mean we don't encourage you to reach out to us when you have a concern or you have a question, or something that you think we need to know. And most especially when you think you're not getting the service that your student is entitled to. Hey, my kid reached out to the teacher. I've reached out to the teacher. They haven't responded. By all means, that's when it's appropriate to be the one to advocate for your student, for your child. Because if you don't do it, or help them do it, then, who will in the way that you can. So thank you. That's it for me right now. Katie Mellon, you're unmuting. Are you having trouble unmuting? Can we ask to unmute? I'm asking you to unmute. You can't do it. There you go.
Here we go. So sorry
Okay.
about that. So eager to talk to you all tonight about the different supports that are available for students at DePaul College Prep. In particular, there are many of these academic supports that students are able to access any day, every day. Resource Hub and Corboy Hall, where they can meet with different teachers available in a variety of subjects throughout the day. Their fresh period, where they've got extra time to study, as well as get questions answered, and their office hours with teachers. Those are 3 things that are available to students every single day that anyone can access, and that they should make the use of the most of going into sophomore year. In addition to those kind of daily touch points that they can access, we also have an incredible student success team that this is made up of members of the administration, deans, counselors, learning interventionists, learning specialists, that meet and look at data to help put in place some of the tier 2 level interventions when needed for students. That include our morning academic support to kind of help get students who have, or maybe not as performing at the level as they should be, back on track. The key overall to making the most out of these resources would be a couple of the skills and qualities that Anna mentioned. That self-awareness, knowing when your student needs help, right? They've got to want it. They've got to recognize that they need it. And then that proactivity of making the most of that extra time in their day, their before school, their after school. We know they're busy, but when they need help, it's really important to prioritize it. In terms of students who have a student accommodations plan, learning support in 10th grade looks quite similar to 9th grade in terms of, first, the student accommodations plan that they have. Students will continue to receive any accommodations that are outlined in that plan. We update it based on any new documentation or evaluations. Many 10th graders will continue to be in a structured study hall, but some may transition to an independent study hall, depending on their level of need, the level of independence that they're demonstrating. In 11th grade, there is not an option for juniors to be in a structured study hall. So our goal is really to work towards that independence. We want them checking in with us as needed, but figuring things out, making those connections with their teachers, and again, demonstrating that self-awareness and proactivity. Documentation, their neuropsych, their 504 or IEP needs to be kept up to date. We like that definitely to be up to date within the last 3 years. This is something that you can expect me to be reaching out to you about in a week or so. If student's documentation is expired, if we need a new evaluation, or if we need to update a 504 or IEP, I will be getting in touch with you about that. It's so important for us to keep these things up to date so we have the best and most accurate understanding of our student, so that we're putting in any strategies or accommodations that they need to meet their needs right now. Again, a 9th grader and a 10th grader are very different. If your student's last evaluation was when they were 10, they're even more different now. We want to keep those up to date. That's also really important when it comes to standardized testing accommodations. Testing bodies like College Board, ACT, and IB, they all need up-to-date accommodation or up-to-date documentation in order to offer your student accommodations.
All right, thanks, Katie. I'm Andrea Janik. I'm one of the school counselors, and I'm going to be walking us through the remainder of the presentation tonight. We did just want to go over the counseling services that your students have access to. These are quite similar to what they received freshman year, but it's always good to conduct a refresher. We have at least 2 personal touches with the students each year. So we conduct a check-in during their first semester, just to see, start asking about their post-secondary plans, ask, how their classes have been going. Sophomore year, we see that increase in rigor. So we want to make sure that they're managing it okay, check in to see if they need any extra support. And then second semester, we work with them on academic planning. So picking out their courses for junior year. We start that process typically in November or December, and then continue that on up until usually around spring break. I will say sophomore year is where students are able to start applying for the IB program. So it's important to keep an eye out for that application if your student is interested in applying. We do also see an increase in AP courses available to students for junior and senior year. So we work with our students really closely to see what's going to be the best fit with them and make sure that they have balance in their schedule where we're seeing that increase in rigor, but it's also a manageable schedule for them to handle on top of all of the extracurriculars and outside responsibilities they may have. As a couple of us shared, we are really focused on getting our sophomores towards independence. However, their counselors do help liaison between teachers and students if they're experiencing any academic or behavioral concerns. We help them advocate for their needs whenever they may need it. I know with a lot of my sophomores, I'm helping them draft emails to their teachers, and they copy me on there just to ensure they have that extra support through that. We have targeted social, emotional, and academic support that your student has access to. If your student ever needs a meeting with their counselor, all they need to do is set up an email. We also have a form available during advisory where they're able to indicate if they would like to set up a meeting with their counselor. And then we're also a resource to you all. We conduct our parent education wellness series each year. Those are presentations like we're conducting tonight. But we offer a variety of different topics, post-secondary planning, managing mental health, and we'll continue to offer those next year for you all as well. All right, so as I mentioned, our sophomores will continue with our advisory lessons next year. I'm sure you've heard a little bit about them through freshman year, but this is where we are able to cover the 3 different domains of counseling. So we have lessons that talk about social emotional well-being. We start talking about college and career readiness. And then of course we go over academics. So in 9th grade, we really focused on executive functioning, making sure those students are prepared to handle the high school experience. But sophomore year, we are going to see more pushing into that college and career readiness domain. So we're going to help students with building a resume. I know sophomore year, a lot of them are starting to get their first jobs, which is super exciting. And a lot of them aren't really sure where to start off with a resume. So we help them build that based on the different extracurriculars that they're involved in, maybe any volunteer work they've had from their freshman year. We're able to implement that into their resume. This is where they are also introduced to the Maya platform. And Maya is our platform that they're going to be using really heavily during senior year when they're working on college applications. But we start introducing them to the website during sophomore year. That way, by senior year, they feel super comfortable using the platform as they're navigating those college applications. We also talk about academic advising, ensuring that they're building a balanced schedule, and then we cover mental health awareness and core values reflections. So I know as a college prep school, we're all super excited to start that post-secondary application process and planning. I know though we're sophomores. A lot of students are really worried or feel like they're behind. But in talking to the college counselors in preparation for tonight, they really wanted to emphasize that the student's number one job as a sophomore in getting prepared for college is going to be focusing on their classes. That's the best way for them to help prepare for the exams that they'll be taking junior and senior year. It'll ensure that they're able to build a rigorous schedule if they're focused on those classes. So they really wanted that to be the main goal for our sophomores to prioritize when thinking about college readiness. I know some of them, though, are super excited to start the process. So we wanted to include some things that sophomores can start doing just to help aid them in that decision-making process junior and senior year. If you're able to, it's really helpful to start visiting college campuses, even the ones just close by. If your student isn't necessarily interested in them, it's nice to get on campus and start looking at the different qualities of a campus that your student is looking for. So do I want a big school? Do I want a small school? Do I want a school with a religious affiliation? Once they start visiting those campuses, they can start narrowing down those characteristics or qualities of a college that they're interested in, and that helps aid their decision-making process. With course selection, as I said, colleges like to see an increase in rigor each year. So it is important that students are earning high grades in their courses or the best grades that they're able to earn. Because as you know, many of our AP or honors classes have prerequisites that students need to meet in order to be placed in those. So it is important if your student is interested in a specific AP class that they're performing well and focusing on their grades during freshman and sophomore year as well. Internships and job shadowing are a great way to start thinking about different career paths that your student may be interested in. When I was in high school, I did a job shadowing opportunity, and that was what told me that I did not want to be involved in that career path. So either way, those experiences are helpful in helping your student kind of understand what they're passionate about, what they are interested in exploring. Our college and career counselors have a super comprehensive list of internship opportunities, job shadowing opportunities, and then pre-college programs. And that spreadsheet is located on our DePaul Prep website. If you search the college counseling tab and just scroll down, you'll have access to that spreadsheet that goes over all of the different opportunities. Resume building, as I said, we do cover this in advisory, but if you're finding that your student hasn't been super involved in things outside of school, it's time to start thinking about some sort of activity that they can do, either a club, a sport. Colleges also really appreciate seeing job or volunteer hours. So if your student doesn't have a sport that they're super interested in, I would encourage them to maybe find an organization they're interested in volunteering with or a potential job. Volunteering and job opportunities show dedication. So those also look great on a college application. And then finally, and this is early to start doing this, but start thinking about potential teachers to write letters of recommendation. We do start that process in junior year. So it's important that your student is building meaningful relationships with their teachers, especially if they're interested in a certain field, if they're interested in studying journalism or English, they want to make sure they have a strong English teacher reference as their letter of rec. They're thinking STEM, a math or science would be a great option. But it's important for them to start building those relationships through their self-advocacy and independence so that they have someone who can help speak to their strengths while they're working through the college application process. So we just wanted to give some final reminders about the events coming up. So next week we have our final exams. You can see we start with the Blue Day schedule. So students will have final exams for period 1 and 2 starting on Tuesday. And then they'll continue with 3 and 4 on Wednesday, 5 and 6 on Thursday, and 7 and 8 on Friday. If your student has a study hall, they do not need to come in during that time for the final exam. So if I had study hall first period, I would not need to come in until 9:15 for the second final exam. If your student has a final or a study hall second, they will be able to leave after they take that first exam. I do know a lot of our 9th graders have projects in some courses for their finals. However, they do still need to be in attendance for that final exam period. They may need to present their project that they worked in or give some sort of feedback on that. So please make sure that your student is in attendance for those classes as well. And then if there is any extenuating circumstance where a student is not able to come for a final exam, we have makeups on June 3rd. We also are doing a final exam study session. We had great attendance today, and actually it was a lot of 9th graders, so I was super proud to see that. But we have content teachers available in math, science, social studies, and theology. So if your student is working on studying, but they need some extra help, this is a great opportunity for them to get direct teacher support. We have snacks available, which is always great. And I've seen a lot of the students conducting little study groups with other people in their classes. So this is an awesome opportunity if your student needs a little extra support in preparing for final exams. Lastly, summer reading. I know some of the courses have reading that needs to be conducted over the summer. Those will be announced, should be announced this week. They will be posted on Schoology from the current teacher, and then we'll also have them on our school website. So please make sure you're checking in on those. I know especially the AP classes typically have a reading. So you want to make sure that your student is prepared when they're coming back to school in August. All right, and then we wanted to save some time for question and answer. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A feature, and we will start working through those. But thank you all for coming tonight.
So one of the first questions that came through, I believe that everyone is able to read the questions that we've answered, but just in case we can go read through them. So one parent was wondering if Schoology is available throughout the summer, and then if you will be able to access courses from the previous year. So you will have access to Schoology throughout the summer. Like Sarah was saying, I also think that the courses are archived after students complete them. However, students should have access to everything that they did on Notability, which is where a lot of their notes and projects are worked on. So they will still have access to any notes that they've taken or assignments that they've turned in if they've saved them on Notability. Jackson, I'm wondering if maybe you can speak a little bit more to Laura's question. Sarah answered it, but if you, Jackson, know of any other healthcare organizations that students can volunteer with, that would be great to hear from you on that.
Sure. Yeah. I know for a fact that we have students who volunteer at Lurie's Children's Hospital. Another option would be the Little Sisters of the Poor nursing home. They require students to be over 18, so I guess that's not necessarily applicable. But off the top of my head, Lurie's Children's Hospital is probably the most popular one. If I could get into if somebody, I could email the parent and have kind of look at the fuller list of where students have volunteered before and some of the more common ones, but that one is the one that comes to mind that we have students at regularly.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jackson. Yes, all the 75 hours can all be nonprofits if for the core, Jackson's nodding. And then another parent asked if they're working the freshman orientation, if that can count towards their freshman year service hours. And no, it can't, but it can go towards working toward that core they could wear at graduation. Yes, we will be sure to send out the Pomodoro technique and the organizer, the graphic organizer that we talked about in the beginning of the presentation. This meeting, as Anna said, is being recorded and it will be made available on the website later this week. So if you joined us late or had to leave early, or if you are the parent of multiple students at DePaul and want to check out the other meetings, all of those recordings will be on the website. Another parent had asked about their students staying with the same counselor and the same learning specialist that they had this year. Those are two different questions, but it's the same answer. The answer is yes, we hope so. We are growing as a student body, and so we are adding several new counselors and several new learning specialists. And as a result, caseloads may be shifting a little bit, just like I said, as we are bringing new students in. So the goal is to have your students stay with their current counselor and or learning specialist, but there may be some changes. In terms of locating PSAT scores, those, if your student hasn't received those, they either can access them on the Big Future School app if they gave their mobile number when they took the test. Otherwise, have your student connect with one of us and we can help your student locate the score. In terms of requesting certain teachers for next year, we are not able to accommodate requests for specific teachers. We're always willing to kind of put a plug in to see if it's possible, but it's not something that we can guarantee.
It's not likely.
Yeah.
It's not likely.
I always say it's worth an ask, but we can't guarantee anything. The summer reading for next year will be announced, I think, by the end of this week.
And then we have these new questions. When do students start to prepare for college scholarships such as Posse?
So
Oh,
that
there you go.
process begins junior year when they're matched with their college counselors. That will start November, December of junior year. And then the college counselors work really closely with us as we kind of navigate the scholarship process. But that will all begin junior year.
Okay, I see some new questions if you guys want to go through them. Do you help finding jobs for 14 to 15-year-olds?
Yeah, I would have them reach out to their counselor and we can help them with resume building. For 15-year-olds, they need I don't think 14-year-olds can obtain a work permit. I think you have to be 15. But once they are 15, they can obtain that worker's permit and find a job. The main thing with that is they do need to find a location that's willing to hire them before we're able to provide them with a worker's permit. But if they reach out to their counselor, we can discuss building a resume and help getting them prepared for the job.
And
Service at our personal church. Yep, that's you,
Yep.
Jackson.
absolutely. Yeah, I was just gonna say, yep. And the most important thing with serving at church is just having somebody who's a supervisor that that can sign off on the hours. And so that can come in the form of an email verification that they log into mobile serve, or the advisor supervisor, excuse me, signing their phone or iPad after the service or whatever. So, yep, we highly encourage students to be involved in their parishes.
All right, Katie Mellon, the next one's for you. Do you see it? You can't. If we need to seek out a 504 plan for a student for sophomore year, what's the required documentation you will need to set that up?
Perfect. Required documentation starts with either depending on whether if it's a learning disability, we'd like a neuropsych evaluation, please. If it is for a social emotional need, if it's anxiety or something else along that line, we would like a medical diagnosis and letter from a psychiatrist to outlining how they're being treated and what recommendations they have based on it. From there, we will get your consent to share also the students' grades and any important feedback from teachers and what we're seeing in the daily to share with CPS in order to get that.
AP Euro summer reading.
So that I'm not sure of off the top of my head. I would recommend having your student reach out to their world history teacher. They'll be more familiar with
I know that there's work,
Yeah.
that there's some work. I'm not sure what it is. Kids counselors resigning from school. When will we have a new counselor assigned? We are in the process of making those assignments. We have some time at the end of the year where we're going to sit down and go through our caseloads carefully. Like I said, we have 2 counselors, well, 3, who are transitioning out of their roles as counselors at DePaul. And so we have 3 that are being onboarded. So we may need to reassign some people. We will most definitely keep families together. That can be a little bit complicated. If for whatever reason you have a concern about the relationship your student has with a counselor, like you think they're just not connecting or they're not clicking or they would prefer male or female, you can write to me and I will work with that information. Tips and tricks to encourage a student to participate, access extra resources you have available. I can kick that to a counselor and to Katie Mellon.
I think goal setting really comes into that, helping them understand that, in order to get what they want, we need to put some steps in place.
I would agree. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I would agree with that. I think I know in advisory with our 9th graders, we worked on SMART goals and then we helped them think about what steps need to be taken in order to achieve those goals. And through that exercise, a lot of them kind of reflected like, oh, I do need to go to final exam study support, or I do need to reach out to my teacher for some extra help. But having them think about their goal and then the steps needed to achieve it can be helpful.
I also encourage students to access those things, such as going to the resource hub or going to the after school study sessions to go with a friend. Sometimes going with a peer can be helpful. And so while there's a lot of things that students have to do independently during the school day, making it something a little bit more social can be a motivator as well.
All righty. If students don't receive graded tests, exams from teachers, recommendations on how to know what was incorrect to better prepare and master content that was missed. I oh, you wanted to answer that, Sarah?
I can go for it. Yeah. I think the best practice is to have your students set up a meeting with their teacher and ask to see the actual exam. Teachers do this sometimes just to protect the integrity of the test from year to year or from classroom to classroom. My class takes it on a blue day, someone else takes it on a red day. Maybe it's the same exam. We want to make sure that students we're not employing any academic dishonesty or anything like that. But Anna, if you want to add to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think that it's reasonable and fair for a student to ask to see the results of a quiz, maybe not, or a test, maybe not, like Ms. Keneally just said, while others are still taking it. But I think that that's reasonable for a student to ask to have a review session and a parent to ask you reach out to the teacher directly and say, hey, we're working on this together. What can I do to help my student, or what can my student do? That is one of the times that I do think it's appropriate to reach out to a teacher directly. Have the student try it first. If you don't feel that the student is quite ready to have that conversation, by all means, I think it's really reasonable to say, we want to know what my student knows. Being able to understand a student's proficiency in an area or what supports you can provide at home are reasonable expectations. Thank you to George for telling us. We like to hear good news as well. You know, we spend a lot of time working with parents who are frustrated or who have concerns. And so knowing that there are people who believe that we're dedicated and skilled particularly is really gratifying for us. And please know that we are also equally grateful to have dedicated parents, because, you know, tonight in other places there might be 10 parents on this call, but to have the number of parents, almost, you know, a third of the rising sophomore class having their parents here is really impressive. And then it looks like our final answer, if a student's counselor is not returning next year, have parents already been notified? No, only because, well, some counselors have written to say, I'm leaving, goodbye. One of them, you know, we did have to, earlier this year, we had the counselor who was ill, so you wouldn't hear about that because we've already redistributed that counselor's caseload. So not necessarily. What Mr. Sneed, who's left, Miss Kennedy, who's leaving, and then of course our intern, Miss Ramos, who is not returning. So you may have heard from them, but we do have some redistribution to do. So we're just going to ask you to be patient while we go through that. All righty, that looks like that's it. Okay, we've done a great job, everybody. I see our numbers are dwindling. So thank you again for the feedback, Allison. We appreciate knowing that this has been informational, or, you know, important information that you need. And so we're really grateful to hear from all of you. All right, everybody, thank you. Have a wonderful evening. It's not too late to sit outside for a little bit and enjoy this beautiful weather. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.